Hello, everybody. My name is John, and I'm 88 years old, and I'm basically this is the second one in a series of videos I'm making for my family and anybody else who wants to listen or watch. And I'm going to talk about my past because that's what my children have requested, and and part of it is because I didn't get saved until I was around 74, about 74, and my life changed greatly then. But I discussed that in my first video. And I'd like to talk about, I had several choices I was going to look at today. And I decided on this one, and this is what happened to me. I've been going to church on a regular basis, and I got sick. And I was going to 3 different doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me and that. And I kept getting sicker and losing weight. And so I thought, well, maybe I need to change churches that's closer to me, because I was living in a town called Fuquay Varina, and my church was over in Angers, North Carolina. And it was a little trip for me anyways, and especially at night. So I was decided, I better start looking for another church. So I started looking on the internet and went through and looked at, there were several churches. I don't know, I'm originally from Michigan, where I grew up. It was like every corner had a gas station, and in North Carolina, it's like every corner's got a church. So you have plenty of choices, and there's no reason not to go, because you don't have to go far if you don't want to. But anyways, I started looking, and I spent a couple of days trying to figure out which ones I would like before I start going and trying them out. And the second night after I started this, I was woken out of a sound sleep. I was in bed on in the morning, and I got woken up. I was woken up, and although I couldn't see, because I had no lights on, but I heard a voice at the foot of my bed say, "Go see Pastor Allen. Go see Pastor Allen. Go see Pastor Allen." He told me that 3 times, and I just figured. And in my mind, I said, why? And all of a sudden, I was someplace else. I was in what later I found out was what he had shown me as hell. And I was on a street corner, and I didn't see anybody else around, and it was stormy clouds, rolling black, dark clouds, and just enough light so you could see the outline of buildings and stuff like that. And I was looking across, and this church was on a kitty corner, on a corner facing, and nobody around. The next thing I know, I was inside it. And I looked down towards the sanctuary, and it was so dark I couldn't see the altar. I couldn't see anything. And then I looked around in the church, and I only could see like 2 or 3 feet. And when I was staring at this and seeing how dead it was, a dead church, and I looked to my left, and right by my left shoulder, there was a very bright white electrical box switch, one switch, and all white, and it kind of glowed. And I looked around again, and I could see through the walls from that way it deteriorated. And I looked at that switch, and I said, "Okay, God, you win." And I started going back to my church, and at first, so I got up. So that Sunday I got up and went to church. I drove down there and I walked in what seemed chaos to me, and everybody was running around. Nobody was sitting and just running around. And I asked, "What's going on?" And he said, "The pastor is had a heart attack and he's in the hospital, and we're trying to get together to pray and that." And it was kind of chaotic, and they finally, at the end of the service, they had, one of the people, I don't know what you'd call him, but he was one of the elders, I would guess, and he took over and helped. But when I left, whatever I had sickness of me was totally gone, healed. And to this day, I still don't know what it is, but I don't have any problems anymore with that. And so it kind of watched over me, and I thought, well, I guess God wanted me to be here for some reason. So I don't know if I was supposed to be here for him, or he's supposed to be there for me, or maybe we're supposed to be there for both of us. And anyways, that's how life goes with God. He's always there, trying to keep things going straight for you. And if you pay attention, he will straighten everything out. And I believed, and as I say, I believe. And I hope you do too, because if you do, you learn how to heal, especially yourself. I haven't been able to heal everything wrong with me, but over half of the things I have come up, sickness or whatever else, happened to me, I was able to lay hands on myself and pray, and they would be healed. And and it all has to do with faith, Lord. You have faith. And many times in the Bible, I say, if you listen to Jesus would say, like the woman with the blood problem, says, "By your faith you are healed." And he told others the same thing. By your faith you are healed. Not because he pointed at you, he said you're healed. Not by touching you on the head and said you are healed. By your faith. So I think that's a good idea. So I have great faith, and I've seen miracles happen by using that faith. And I believe that everybody should give it a try anyways. I mean, you may not get 100%, but I mean, if you can heal yourself half the time, that's a pretty good record. I don't know many pastors that can do that. Well, anyways, this is my experience with the Lord, and maybe next time I'll get into some of my some prophecies that were given to me from the Lord, and that's part one, and for my family, who really also wants a lot of things that I did in my life. I'm going to switch over now and talk about my life as a child, and some of the things I remember, and I know my brother remembers because he was in on a lot of them. And one of the things when we were kids, my father worked this was in Michigan, and my father worked in Detroit, and we lived out in a county, Van Buren Township, near a small city of 2,000 called Belleville. And a lot of times he had to go to work, hitchhike to work, which is 30 some miles away from us. And he stayed with his sister, and he'd come home on the weekends. And he's driving truck for some company, delivering stuff. And he came home with a German officer army tent The thing was like 10 by 10, I think. And he had some pallets, and he put out in the backyard, and he put the pallets down for flooring, and then he put the tent up and brought out 2 cots, one for me and one for my brother, and they moved a little dresser out with our clothes in, and we spent 2 summers out in the backyard every day, rain, shine, and that was one of the best things that ever happened to us. Well, I'm back. Had a phone call, so. Anyways, it was talking about the tent, the German tent, and it had windows in it and screens in it, and of course, a zip-up storm our door on the front, both of the netting and non-netting. The German officers didn't kept themselves well with the big tent. I can't imagine what the guys that did the fighting did. They probably lay in a ditch. Well, anyways, onward, and that was one of the things that my brother remembers and I remember. And at times we'd sneak out of the tent at night and somehow never got into trouble, but we had a great time doing that. And other things that I remember at the time, we used to go frog hunting, and some of the kids in the neighborhood, the boys, and at that time, the only thing we were interested in was playing baseball and doing things for the boys, and girls were taboo. And we went a lot of time to go frog hunting and bring them back and clean them, butcher and clean them, and my mother would go and cook them, and she put a little salt in the frying pan, and it caused them, because they're fresh. As soon as it hit that, the frog legs would jump around in the frying pan, and of course she didn't like that too well, but they tasted good. And we used to do that during the summer too, and at times we'd make dams in our creek. There's a creek that ran through our property, and about 3 or 4 feet wide, and maybe 3 or 4 inches deep on the normal. And when it's not flooding, and it went a long ways, so we could go a long ways. And we used to, at different spots, we had built sod dams where it backed it up, and we could, maybe 2 to 3 foot of water. So, but then we went skinny dipping, and just the boys, So we used to do that, and as I remember one time, we had one down, it's right down from the house, but it's all covered with, around it was the bushes and trees and that, and we built one there, and went down there one day and found a snapping turtle about 2 foot in diameter, sitting at the bottom of it. And of course, we weren't going in swimming with them in there, so. But that's, we had a great thing, and I can remember one time, we had the older teenager, 16 years old, from the neighborhood. He got his brothers and me and my brother went out into the woods and camped overnight. And what we did, we had a horse. Both me and my brother had a horse, and we just pack up the horse, and we head with a canvas, and we go out along the creek to the woods and put the canvas over a low branch off a tree, and camp out overnight, and get up in the morning and have bacon and eggs, and and had a great time that way. And we didn't have to worry about somebody taking us camping or anything. If we wanted to go, we could go. My parents didn't stop us much on that kind of stuff, and that because that's how you you find out about life, and when you screw up, yeah, and usually you're not home, so you got to take care of it. And I can remember one time, in the middle of the winter, my brother again was at the neighbors, and they had a long driveway or a steep hill that went way down the side and into the creek, and he was going down on the sled, and you could really get going. You had to be careful. You had to turn off sooner than you think, because otherwise you'll end up in the creek. Well, this time he didn't make that turn too fast, and he ended up in the creek, and he had a long walk home. And it was, I think it's probably down around 10 degrees or something like that. The time he got home, he was one piece of ice. So, but I don't know. I think we had no money. We had nothing hardly that everybody said. We got in the city. They have nothing in the city. They come out to our place on the weekend and visit us so they can do what we do. So, and we had I think I had a great childhood, and also, if I needed some money in that, and the strawberries come in, you can go to the farms, and for a nickel a quart, you get paid a nickel a quart to pick strawberries. And you have to pick a lot of strawberries to get a dollar, I tell you. Yeah. So and sometimes I can remember them. A farmer was bringing in hay, and you had to go out with them, and they at that time they harvest the hay by just cutting it and dropping it down, and then they come along and they make bales. I think they're 80-pound bales, and you throw them up on a wagon, and they take it back and pile it up in the barn. And if you can drive a tractor, you got 25 cents an hour. And otherwise, you didn't get anything but a meal. Get one of these big farm meals, which is worth it right there. So, and also, we had as we got in the teens and that, my brother got a horse from a neighbor. It cost him $50, and it walked around the yard and that like a dog. He didn't go up running off and that. He followed us around on the backyard and out in the field, and if you didn't watch it, he'd walk into the house. And then my birthday come along, and my parents got me a horse. Now, we didn't have a saddle or anything, so we at first had to ride bareback, and people used to loan us a saddle now and then, like an old army saddle or something that they had laying around. And I can remember getting that first horse, then the only horse, and she was a quarter horse, very fast. I entered in a couple of races with her, and I won both of them. And but then when I first got her, I had no idea how to ride a horse. I had no plans on having a horse, and this horse, and I said, and I found out, and I kind of swung myself up on her back to ride her, and then she'd buck me off. She wouldn't run off though. She'd sit there like just laughing at me. Then I get back on, get up and get back on her, and she'd buck me off again, and she'd stand there and just laugh at me, And uh, so I, and m- both my brother and I belonged to a 4-H club, and then we had a few, about a mile or two, a couple of miles from us was a girl that was, she had, her parents had some money in that, so she had a horse, and she was trained on riding flat saddle or English saddle. And and they started a 4-H club, so this is for horse people anyways, all a horse club in the 4-H. And we started going there and and had all kinds of great things that we did. I can remember my horse, we used to do the chairs, musical chairs with the horse, and you had to jump off and get onto the chair, you know. Well, my horse, about the second time around, caught onto it, and she'd run it, and that music stopped, she ran over the chair and dumped me. She just, boom, you know. And it's really eye-opening to think that animals are smart, you know. They're smarter than what you think. And they notice things, and they watch you, and you can have a great time. I remember we was playing hide and seek out in the woods and that, and she had her horse trained to lay down, so she'd go underneath a couple pine trees, lay the horse down, and cover it up with needles and leaves and that, and then cover herself up, and everybody would walk by her because they're looking up high for the horse, you know, and there it's laying down, covered up, you know. So that was a great time too. And I think that's probably all I'll cover this time. There's other things that happen, but I'll leave that for another time. And maybe next time, I was been toying. I have was given a vision of the United States from before it came into being, all the way through into its end. And I was thinking about doing it this time, but I think maybe next time I'll talk about that and what we expect to come. And in the meantime, I bless you all, and I hope you all have a great life, a fantastic life, for this is a fantastic life. And look at the bright side. It's just as easy to look at trouble from in the bright side as it is in the bad side. You complain and everything and not count your blessings. It affects your life, and it affects your health. And the same, if you look at the bright side, it affects your health even better, and it helps you deal with healing, like I talked about earlier. You have to believe, and it's easy to believe once you start seeing things. And anyways, until next time, you have a fantastic life. Bye.